up, Lee?
I'm living the dream, my friend, living the dream.
Yeah, I found that song called Sunshine. I thought it was appropriate today.
Yeah, it is. Just ahead
The
of
weekend.
the afternoon. Yeah, but this is good. This is a good song.
All right.
Right.
How we feeling? It's August 7th. It's a Monday. We are July's in the books. How you feeling?
Me personally, I'm feeling hopeful and good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you base it on?
Just anecdotal activity. Our coaches, the PC coaches, were busy this weekend fielding questions. The PC program coachees were putting things under contract. I'm receiving calls on a coming soon listing that's barely out of the blocks. It's there's activity out there.
Okay, so we're judging our feeling based on activity.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Groundswell.
I'm gonna make a generalization, then we'll jump into the numbers. It looks like May was the peak, and then June was slightly less than May. July was slightly less than June. I don't know what that means for August. Like I could be surprised and August could just pop up and it turn out to be a great month. It feels like it's got potential, but it's early, right? Like the activities are going, we'll see. And there's a big announcement coming, I think this week, around what's the inflation number for July. When the US government announces what that inflation number is, the closer it is to 2, the better off life will be for us going forward.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the numbers here. And we'll start with Fulton County. Right now, there's 812 active inventory in Fulton County, 141 active under contract, 277 pending, and 338 closed. So if I just look at the pink line, we're at the highest active inventory in Fulton County we've been in quite a long time. Then on the brown line, which is the closings, we've got a couple peaks in there, but if you just kind of trend it out, we're in the summer. We're at the top of the trend of this brown line around closings, and then pendings are, they've tapered off, like I said, from May, yet I don't think that they're nosediving or anything. It's just not the hot real estate summer that everybody was hashtagging. It was moderate summer, and but active under contract is still healthy. Fulton County, there's Fulton County. Let's run over to DeKalb real quick. I wonder how many hours a week we spend waiting on things to load. All right, here we go. Let's shorten it down. So 417 active in DeKalb, 86 under contract, 189 pending, 170 closed. Still pretty close to the highest inventory it's been. The brown closing line has certainly come down from what it was in May in DeKalb County. The blue line on the pendings has tapered off, but it's still pretty high. And the yellow line on the active under contract, it's tapered off a little bit, but it's still consistent with where it was. And then let me hit Cobb County real quick, and then give me your thoughts, Lee.
Right. Hang on a second. My computer froze. I was just looking at something. I was just looking at entire MLS's 2.5 months supply.
Yeah. And we got the Chartmaster stuff today. And I'll point out a couple comments on it. Let me hit Cobb. It's 421 active inventory. It was 431 2 weeks ago, but it's still kind of at the peak. 82 under contract, 209 pending, and 244 closed. And they bounced all around, but the closings are up there right now in Cobb County. So DeKalb certainly looks like it's tapered off compared to what May was. Fulton and Cobb seem to be holding their own in terms of sales, right? What else you got? If I run over here, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in terms of, we do for Midtown, the sales meetings, we do an inside perimeter sort of health check on the market. And really, for quite a while, there are fluctuations in, new listings, pending, active under contract, closed, sold, withdrawn. Not many of the numbers are bouncing around too greatly. We are sort of, plugging away at things is kind of what the market is. It actually feels like a normal market, albeit an undersupplied one.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like, there's business out there. You have to go and earn it.
So I'm looking at Metro Atlanta 8 County out of Chartmasters real quick. So June had 6,700 new listings. July had 6,000. So it was 10% less in July. You look at active inventory in the month. July was a little higher. So obviously you got a reverse going on here. We put less on the market, but we had more inventory, which just shows it slowing down a little bit. Pendings were down almost 7%. The ratio of pending, active to pending, went down 5%. So you can see it slowing down in the month of July. Closings were down 1.5%. Therefore, prices went backwards 2% in the month of July. Month supply of inventory climbed to 2. I was looking at this, and if you look at these inventory months of supply numbers, we hadn't really seen them a lot of 2s, but all of a sudden everything over 500,000 is over 2 months of inventory. So you got to realize those sellers aren't used to having to keep their house clean for 2 months. They're not used to it not selling right away.
7% interest rates at the price point matter.
Yeah, so I think there's a skill set inside of these numbers that the agents are going to have to pull out the back drawer and dust it off and rework those skill sets with the sellers, or learn new ones if you've never had to do it.
There's the expectation of, an agent that's been around for a while. And I've said this before, a 45-day, list to contract in 45 days used to be impressive. Contract to close in 60, you're a superhero. I think, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a famous KW agent had all the billboards and radio ads, your house sold in 90 days, something like that.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, so the reality is it's setting expectations with your sellers.
Sure, and it's the expectation of the market, right?
And also I'm noticing with younger agents, there's a pacing that you need to apply as well. Obviously, if you get the price just right on a listing and the presentation good, it's still going under contract in less than a week. That's still out there. There are still multiple offers out there. But for a lot of agents, a lot of listings, it's now that you've got to accept it's 30 days. You can't fire all your fireworks off in the first 4 days and be left with nothing.
Yep.
You've got to pace yourselves.
All right. So new listings are down 22%. Closings are down 23% from a year ago. So if we were driving the car at 100 miles an hour a year ago, we're driving a car at 77 miles per hour now. Or we might have been driving the car at 120 miles an hour a year ago, and we might be driving the car at 97 miles an hour now. It just depends on how you look at it, but there's certainly a dip of about 20%, which I actually think is healthy. I think we could have slipped to 30% down at some point in time, and some of the other major metropolitan areas have. So we're doing good here. But anyway, you guys can dive into the chart masters. We will get there. A couple other articles, Lee, that I think is important to point out. We've talked about how Atlanta is the #1 iBuyer market in the country. And when I say #1, 6% of the market is going to iBuyer. So is that #1? I mean, it's still a lot of real estate, right?
Yeah.
Open Door does 76% of that. So they made money in second quarter. And
Still a
here's
loss overall.
it's still a loss overall, but here's how I would give you the analogy. We've talked about builders. Builders, when the interest rates came around, they paused. They were worried about their profit margins. They were worried about their supply chains. They figured it out and they put their foot on the gas pedal and they're plowing forward. I think iBuyers are the same. I think they got nervous. I think they couldn't figure out their profit margins, but I think they're figuring out their margins and their foot's on the gas pedal again.
Well, they said we are building a healthy new book of inventory, intentionally moderated, and their CEO is saying that they can expect more profit from their sales. They lost, it says in Q2, they lost $17,000 per house sold, but that's better than I think the year before, or first quarter was 29,000. But during the COVID craziness, they were making $40,000 a house.
So their stock price is at $4.80. But after hours, it went down to $4. Here's the point. It's a publicly traded company. They have to turn profit, right? All I'm saying is, if you're still thinking iBuyers are the cruel intention incumbents to the market, right? The truth is actually they're trying to figure out how to work with our industry, and they're moving that direction. You need to think about how you think about iBuyers, if that makes sense. You need to challenge your thinking around it.
Deborah Blue has for a long time utilized them. Why wouldn't you go to them if you can get your clients a good offer and you can still collect a 3% commission? I think there is a counter argument. The pessimist in me is you're giving away business, but your job is to represent your clients and you still can get paid. They are an avenue that you can follow. You don't have to take the offer. They don't have to take the offer. iFinder is the other tool in our toolbox.
There you go.
I've had more than one occasion where I've worked with OfferPad and Open Door, managed to turn a profit for my clients.
Yeah,
And
so we're working this, right? We're getting to where we're navigating and figuring out how to play this game.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. You made the point, Brett, that they may lose money or show that sort of loss, but the reality they have the other income streams, the other affiliated businesses. So they're here to stay.
Absolutely. I was diving in. NAR put out their report at the end of last year. They put out a bunch of statistics, and here I can just pop this link in the chat for everybody. But you know, they rent went up from a year ago. There, it's in the chat. 8.3%. That's a pretty big jump in rent, in my opinion. You know, you expect rent to be close to home price appreciation on a trend, and normally home price appreciation is around 4% a year, right? Inflation is 2% a year, so the cost of everything's supposed to go up 2% a year. So when rent's going up 8%, I see this as a good thing for the real estate sales industry because it drives people back to buying real estate. Mm-hmm. Now, this one hurts. Car insurance going up 17%. Almost everybody that buys a house pays car insurance. Now, granted, that's not a credit on your credit debt, meaning it's not counted against you in your debt to income ratio, yet it's felt in your pocketbook. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something to be talked about. All these are, okay, a car would be in your debt to income. The rest of these are just, what's the income? My brain's not where it's Monday, Lee. What's a disposable income?
Yes.
all these take away your disposable income, which you feel in your pocketbook, but it doesn't necessarily translate to affordability. The one I wanted to point out was this chart. So I find this interesting because in January 2019, the Federal Reserve rate was 2.5%. And we forget about that. But what happened was they dropped it to 0 during the pandemic because they were trying to encourage money being spent. And then you see in the news that we went from 0 to 5.5, and it was the biggest hike in 22 years. But the truth is, if you pull it back out, we were at 2.5. So 2.5 to 5.5 is not that drastic, but 0 to 5.5 is.
And this is this COVID craziness goes across the board when you look at statistics. I mean, we have conversations about how we as a business are tracking against 2018, 2019, 2020. We don't generally look at what happened during COVID as a good baseline because it was so bizarre and so globally wacky. It almost means nothing. There are still some interesting ramifications. One of the other articles you sent, I don't know if you want to go into that one.
Which one?
I picked, who was it? It was the Business Chronicle. There was a stat line in that one.
Yep, go ahead.
So that was interesting generally, just because the economy is doing well when second homes, vacation properties are doing well. And they were some of the hottest markets for Georgia. But what was really interesting was my backyard of Alpharetta, 30009 is the highest performing zip. And it appreciated. So home values in Alpharetta have grown 75% since 2018.
All right. So top 10 were Sonoya, Canton, Bogart, Greensboro, Atlanta was number 6, Bishop number 5, Skidaway Island number 4, Blue Ridge number 3, Second Homes, Savannah number 2, and Alpharetta number 1.
But 75%.
Yeah.
But a lot of
5 years ago.
And that's fueled with the acceleration took place during COVID.
Yeah.
I
asked one of the builder, I live in Brookhaven, and it's a market where there's a lot of tear downs and rebuilds. And I was asking one of the builders, I said, at some point in time, you're getting priced out of what people are selling these lots for. What do you have your eye on? He said, we all have our eye on Alpharetta, but it's almost priced out. It's almost got us priced out of the market before we even start.
Well, I mean, again, in Alpharetta, in Alpharetta, right, there's a fight on in Milton for land. That's going to be a big thing in the upcoming elections because some people want to preserve the horse country nature of the area. But the development that's possible there, even without infrastructure like sewer, is so valuable that it's going to change. Alpharetta, you can buy a third of an acre with a house on for $1 million that's a tear down.
Yeah.
And they can build them, they can make the money from it.
5 years ago, 95% price change from 5 years ago in Blue Ridge.
That's amazing.
That's a big price change.
It's exciting, but worrying as well. I mean,
all right. So I want to talk about this for a minute. This gets weird, but just hear me through it. So this talks about the invisible laws that led to America's housing crisis. There's a bunch of things. You can read the article, but one of the things in here, I don't even know if I can find it real quick, but bottom line is it talks about zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think about zoning as the being highly political, where if they give a single family zoning rating to a house, that rating says you can only have a single family house on there. Well, what they originally tried to stop was people building duplexes, people building quadruplexes, people building a guest house on the back corner of their property, people building an apartment on top of a detached garage. So zoning affects all those things. Well, zoning is becoming a hot topic these days because, especially Decatur just went through a big a public hearing and law around this where they changed their zoning laws. But as the population becomes larger, as the density becomes higher, there's going to be a push to change some of the zoning to allow for more multifamily type zoning.
Accessory dwelling structures.
Yes. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, you know, zoning and planning is now a real political hot topic. Again, going back to Milton, it's a fight. There's a dust up going on, but it depends on the area as to what that really means. In an affluent area like Milton, it means, can you have a pool house that's 3,000 square feet and put it on a property, even though you're going over variances, you know, for coverage and things? And the answer is yes. There's enough money up there that the lobbyists win. Zoning inside cities, you know, where single family limits the use of land or the lot size, it makes housing unaffordable. That's why there's this push for accessory dwelling structures or tiny houses. Had a conversation with a client of Melanie's this morning. She's looking for land. She thought that maybe she could buy a piece of land in Mountain Park and put an Airstream on it. You know, a very simple idea, but completely impossible. Got clients in Conyers that had to remedy a barn structure they converted into a residence because it was 400 square foot short of the minimum square footage requirements for the area. So it's a minefield. Everyone's got a different view, and I'm not
taking a stance. I'm just reporting what they're saying, right?
The ramifications for affordable housing are huge.
Yeah. And I mean, here's what it's saying. It said now more local and state governments led by both Democrats and Republicans are rethinking their single family zoning laws in response to a nationwide housing crisis.
I think it said California scrapped single family zoning.
I think about that first time home buyer often, and we haven't found a solution for them. And they're pretty much priced out of the market.
Well, multi-gen living. So some of these big houses, they're building the accessory dwelling structures with the idea that the kids will come back, and when the parents get older, they go to the carriage house. And so that multi-generational living is going to become more common. But again, yes, in my backyard, no, in my backyard, it's going to be a huge argument for years to come.
It'll be a big argument for years to come. It's just interesting to keep your eyes on it, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the home values. You got the NAR stats. You know, here's the thing about where the real estate market is right now, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
The agents that do the activities, the agents that are head down focused are winning. And we got case in point all over our offices. The ones that are slow to activity and are sitting in a reactive position are going to ride the wave of whatever the market's giving you. And the market's not giving you 100% right now, but it needs 110% of your activities. And if you respond that way, you will win.
I think there's a stat, I can't remember, maybe it was on the real estate stats, but there are still 52% of sales going above list price, meaning that you can win. It's all about your approach.
Perfect. Well, anyway, I think, are there any questions about what we covered? Any thoughts about what we covered? We got done early, Lee.
Yeah, we blasted through that.
Yeah.
There was an interesting, the Georgia property price increase through COVID was 41% or something like that, 2020 Q1 to Q1 this year, I guess.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I mean, just property including value.
There you go.
Pretty amazing.
Anyway, it's never a bad thing to finish early. Lee, happy Monday, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.